Federalist 45, Part 4. We'll start with paragraph 9. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The former will be exercised principally on the external objects, as war, peace, negotiation, and foreign commerce, with which last the power of taxation will, for the most part, be connected. The powers reserved to the several states will extend to all the objects which, in the ordinary course of affairs, concern the lives, liberties, and properties of the people, and the internal order, improvement, and prosperity of the state. So, to states, Madison is saying, all we did was invigorate this Constitution, this federal government, and so that it'll become effectual. That's why we gave it these certain powers to negotiate peace treaties, to be in charge of foreign policy, to be in charge of a small military and a navy to defend us, and and also the method of collecting taxes to be able to do all of these. But he says all the other powers are left in the hands of the states. So to those who criticize us that we have consolidated power, concentrated power in the central federal government, that doesn't make any sense. He says that is not right at all. Next paragraph, the operations of the federal government will be most extensive and important in times of war and danger, those of the state governments in times of peace and security, as the former periods will probably bear a small proportion to the latter. The state governments will here enjoy another advantage over the federal government. The more adequate, indeed, the federal powers may be rendered to the national defense, the less frequent will be those scenes of danger which might favor their ascendancy over the governments of the particular states. So federal government gains power when there's war. And we're hoping there will not be any war, but it's going to happen every once in a while. He says that's the only time the federal government tends to, because it wants to defend you, tends to have more power, or at least show itself more, be in touch more with the lives of the people. But he says hopefully we'll have peace, prosperity, and in times of peace, everything is left to the state governments. So again, he rejects the idea that the federal government is going to be so centralized and so much power it's going to be in its hands that the state governments will lose their power. Now, the next paragraph, this is the last paragraph, and he actually is going to use the word invigorate here. If the new Constitution be examined with accuracy and candor, it will be found that the change which it proposes consists much less in the addition of new powers to the Union than in the invigoration of its original powers. So it's not so much that we've given it more powers. All we've done is invigorated, reminded that you're not dead. You've got life. Your life is going to make you work in such a way that you'll be effectual. So again, federal government gets its hands untied so that it can better take care of its responsibilities. The regulation of commerce, it is true, is a new power, but that seems to be an addition which few oppose and from which no apprehensions are entertained. The powers relating to war and peace, armies and fleets, treaties and finance, with the other more considerable powers, are all vested in the existing Congress by the Articles of Confederation. The proposed changes does not enlarge these powers. It only substitutes a more effectual mode of administrating them. So see, he says a lot of these powers already are given to our Articles of Confederation, our bad old Constitution. What we've done is frame this federal government, write this Constitution in such a way that it is invigorated and it becomes effectual, can get its job done. The change relating to taxation may be regarded as the most important, and yet the present Congress has complete authority to require. Remember, the words require, he's written it in big letters, because in the past few Federalists, you've noticed that I've said the central government, the Confederate government kept on making requisitions to the states to send us soldiers, to send us money, this, that. But most of the states would not comply, either fully or on time. So he says, yes, we have made another change, because in the past and under this old Constitution, you were required to help us run the federal government. But we have changed the rule where this new taxing system has come into this new Constitution. This way we won't have to beg on the states. We can just directly go to the people this way, and we can take care of people. And I'll read the rest. Have as a complete authority to require of the states indefinite supplies of money for the common defense and general welfare, as the future Congress will have to require them of individual citizens, and the latter will be no more bound than the states themselves have been to pay the quotas respectively taxed on them. Had the states complied punctually with the Articles of Confederation, so here, let me read that again. Had the states complied punctually, had they been on time, had they actually done what they were supposed to under the Articles of Confederation, or could their compliance have been enforced by as a peaceable means as may be used with success towards single persons, our past experience is very far from countenancing an opinion that the state governments would have lost their constitutional powers and have gradually undergone an entire consolidation. So he says, we've learned from the past. We learned our lessons when we made requisitions from the states and nothing came through punctually on time. So now in this new Constitution, most of our revenue comes from taxes on imports, but we have a clause that says when needed, we will tax the individual citizens ourselves and not go to the states and beg the states. To maintain that such an event would have ensued would be to say at once that the existence of state governments is incompatible with any system whatever that accomplishes the essential purposes of the Union. So again, Federalist Publius makes sure that he's learned from history, not only their experience in 13 different states under after the Revolution, but also of history of ancient and modern confederations, history of Britain, history of France, what was going on in Western Europe. Said we have to be wise. They're very realistic about human nature. And that's one of the reasons that the U.S. Constitution, as it stands right now, it's a wonderful document.